Yo guys, how's it going? It's Richard Unicorn Caller, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. We are back. Haven't made a video in a while, but I am back. Just got done watching the New York Giants go up against not the Giants. The New York Giants were terrible. Oh my gosh, I was watching the New York Jets, and they clutched it up against the Buffalo Bills. Been watching a lot of football lately. Been playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 lately, which is super fun. Have a ton of walkthroughs of that. And yeah, now we are back on Wiz. We're gonna talk about advanced combat. You know, I was kind of iffy on making a second video for this because I tried doing the first video and it was sloppy, so now this is my second attempt. And I'll try to just quickly let you guys understand what advanced content is in this game, especially if you're a returning player. Basically, advanced combat are these special type of like rule sets they have whenever you're in combat and stuff like that, or quote unquote advanced content is what they like to say. But if you don't know what it is, it's basically they ban a few spells here and there. They scale your level down a tiny bit. Well, actually, just a lot. They scale your stats down. It's a whole process. It kind of came in with the first raid and challenge mode, which we'll go into a little bit later. But as a main thing, there's a bunch of spells you can't use. So, if you were doing advanced combat, you can't use Faint, you can't use Bad Juju, Backdraft, Supercharge, Enfeeble, Shatter, Dimension Shift, blah blah blah. 4 damage AoE spells have been given spell mint paths that increase their damage. If you don't remember, you can't really use like many AoEs. I think they reverted this change actually, so I think you could still use AoEs, but it's a whole thing. Then you have the whole like level scaling in progress going on. It's a whole thing. You gotta read this entire chart if you're a level 160, and if you don't like numbers, then it might bother you a lot. It's a whole thing. I'm not even sure if this is like the latest updated one. It's just really, it's just a lot. So, just read that and figure yourself out, And then you gotta farm for this one jewel, which you can get from Baba Yaga. This jewel is pretty decent in raids because it's one of the AoEs that's not really banned or anything like that, so that's a really good AoE. You can't use the Dragoon AoE amulet thing anymore, so you have to kind of like resort to another type of 4-pip AoE type of thing. It's a whole process with advanced content, and I've never been a big fan of it to begin with. And it kind of started ramping up. I don't have to say like last month or around August when this update came out and stuff like that. They started ramping it up, especially with the tiny patch notes that we have. So we did the whole like heal bans. So some of the heals are going to be banned from advanced content, such as like Dryad, Pigsy, which is the bottom path, is actually still available. Rebirth, you can't use Rebirth anymore. Satyr, Unicorn, that also includes the Maycast Rebirth wand. I believe last time I checked there was an X or whatever. But yeah, burst heals above 2 pips have been banned. You can still use stuff like Sacrifice and availing hands, but yeah, most of it is just mainly like life spells and stuff like that. Boss rematches updated to use the challenge mode rule set, aka basically advanced combat rule sets. I'm not sure if the challenge mode rule set is tied into the advanced content rule set. I'm not 100% sure on that. And then we have this really cryptic thing, various raid fixes and adjustments to both the Crying Sky raid, which is the Azteca raid, and the Voracious Void raid, which is the Dragonspire raid. Again, it's super cryptic, and of course, advanced content or advanced combat goes with raiding, so that will affect you in raids and also in PvP. So whatever really happens in PvP affects raids in a sense. And slowly we're kind of seeing advanced content kind of creep its way into the PvE atmosphere, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I'll be speaking mainly from personal experience of my times raiding. I would have to say that back in the day when the Dragonspire raid first came out, it was just super fun because we found a strategy, we, made new strategies, and of course we got those wins and the amazing loot. It was super amazing. And then when the Azteca raid came out, of course we kept losing, but this time it felt like it was a lot resourceful. We kept having pop energy elixirs. We didn't know what we were doing. Apparently, there were some things that were bugged in the Azteca raid for a very long time. I don't even know if there's still things bugged in that raid. It really wouldn't surprise me, like, if there was more things bugged in that raid. But eventually, our guild just kind of, like, gave up, and so did a few other guilds. I mean, I'm sure there's probably a billion other guilds that are still raiding, and I'm pretty sure at this point that someone out there has probably like defeated Hunhow and has gotten the raid win. Maybe they just don't use social media or whatever, but I'm pretty sure at this point the raid, someone has beaten it out there, I guess. I don't know, and I really don't care anymore if someone beats it at this point, because the hype for raiding has kind of fizzled out for me, and it's kind of funny how we go into like this advanced combat scenario, and I guess if you want to call it hard mode, a lot of people, I guess back in the day on Wizard101, wanted hard mode, in which we've had a few W's here and there. The Beastman Fight Club is still probably one of the most notorious dungeons out there in Imperial, probably one of my favorites, but also probably one of the hardest ones. That one at the time was amazing. The bosses felt like absolute units, right? And then you kind of go into like raiding and the boss rematches, and your stats are being scaled down, and you can't use certain spells. You can't even use enchants. You can't even use feints anymore. And I think there was also a mention that even dispels might even be banned as well. So dispels would practically be useless in advanced content. And I mentioned this about challenge mode, about handicapping the player doesn't make the content advance, or let alone harder. It just makes the experience tedious and honestly kind of boring in a sense. If you're going to make content advanced, or if you're going to follow a specific rule set, then how on earth, and it's 2023, how come we can't use the Rochambeau spells as PvE players? I feel like that if you don't like people to spam blades over and over again, it would be really cool to kind of see people use these Rochambeau spells against certain bosses and stuff like that, or mobs, and kind of let them experiment with it, because obviously not everybody's going to PvP, not everybody's going to raid, there's not really a good way to test them out unless you want to go to like a practice PvP ring in your house. But not everybody's going to want to do that. They just want to test it out in combat when they're against bosses. And it would also kind of add some spice to the gameplay. It's kind of ironic because we were in the Novus final boss fight just now, and it's a really boring fight because we're polymorphed and we have to use all these types of like Rochambeau spells, and it's just like super annoying, right? It's such a boring boss fight. But it would be cool if you allowed the PvE players, to use this without having to be in PvP or without having to be in raids. I think that would definitely spice up some gameplay. I would definitely use some of these Rochambeau spells myself. I think that would be awesome. But I guess it's just gonna stay for PvP, and it's kind of sad because it is that type of content that I'm sure a lot of players would like, but at the same time it's kind of like this disconnect. And again, we're slowly seeing this advanced content kind of slowly sleep into PvE, which I really hope doesn't happen, because if it does happen, it just means I'm just going to be playing the game less and less. I think advanced content and combat rule sets should stay with raids, PvP, challenge mode for whatever dungeons you want to do. You know, I'll probably stop doing that dungeon overall. Honestly, I really hope they just scrap challenge mode. I think challenge mode is like a lost cause. And whatchamacallit, boss rematches. What I don't want to see is the advanced content rules. I don't want to see this and gold skeleton key bosses or just key bosses in general. There honestly should not be a rule set for skeleton key bosses. That might actually kill skeleton key boss farming, in my opinion. So please don't do that. Don't do it. Secondly, just PvE content in general, leave it alone. Because I don't want to go to like the last world of Wallaroo and then it follows the advanced content rules and then I have to look at this whole chart list of like, okay, here's how my level scale works and okay, here are the spells that are banned and stuff like that. I really don't want to do that. There were some times where we had previous bosses that had a lot of health, you know? We've had things like Grandfather Spider had a lot of health. Medulla used to have a lot of health. Even Malistaire used to have a lot of health. And for some reason, they kind of nerfed it. I feel like they shouldn't be nerfing bosses. We should be buffing bosses. So maybe buff up the health, buff up their pierce, buff up their critical, buff up their damage. Don't handicap the players and decrease their damage. Don't decrease their mana. Like, don't decrease their pip chance. Don't ban spells. That's not really fair, you know? I don't think that's really fair. Like, you buff the boss, but then you decrease us. That doesn't make any sense to me. So just buff a boss. Make a super hard mega boss, but let us still cast enchants. Let us still use, like, all these other spells. I would even have to go as far as to say, let us use some of the Rochambeau spells and test it out. See if we can change up the strategy. I don't know, man. I don't know. And I know that the devs work hard, and, you know, that's why these are one of these conversations where we put it in the closet. And if you're new to the channel, basically we have these conversations, and we never ever talk about it ever again, because at that point, we're just wasting time on a really dead topic. We've talked about spellmints and how I feel about spellmints. I still think spellmints are just garbage, and I really wish there was a better way to obtain spellmints, or even have like a recipe to convert unwanted spellmints into the spellmints you need, which will never happen, obviously. Again, we put spellmints in the closet. We talked about raids, and we put raids in the closet because I've said my piece about it numerous times, and it's another dead topic. My guild does not raid anymore. People are leaving the Discord server. People are leaving the guild. We just do not raid anymore because of the difficulty spike and all the advanced rule set, and also the fact how not everybody has 3 hours of their time to basically go raiding on Wizard101. Also, not everybody has energy elixirs. Not everybody even has the mental energy. Like, we have people that get sick or they're sleepy. You know, it's kind of like a daycare if you think about it. And that shouldn't excuse you from not raiding. I think that everybody should definitely go raiding at least once, because it is a really fun experience, especially hanging out with that many wizards. It's amazing. I think you should definitely do it once. Heck, maybe even twice. But for me, I'm retired. I got my loot. I got my badges. I've helped many people get their first raid wins, and I'm done with that, right? And, yeah, we put raids in the closet. But, yeah, advanced content and advanced combat is one of the things where I'll also put it in the closet. And it's not just because I suck at the game, right? I know I don't suck at the game. I just don't feel like doing tedious content, right? I'm already doing tedious content with Baldur's Gate 3, right? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what some of this, like, Dungeons and Dragons languages and stuff like that, because I've never played a D&D game before. But guess what? I'm still having more fun on Baldur's Gate 3 struggling rather than Wizard101 struggling, right? A lot of people always ask me, like, why are you always doing, like, Darkmoor? Darkmoor is probably one of my favorite dungeons, right? You get 3 floors of bosses and you get some awesome loot drops, right? And I feel like now as we kind of, like, increase our level, I feel like the content is starting to get more stale and stale. And it's not really fun being a high level, you know? I would have to say, like, being a level 100 is awesome. But being a high level, there's definitely no rush for it. So if you are still leveling up, take your time with it because being a high level sucks. That is what I have to say about advanced content and my other pieces about raids and stuff like that. Um, you know, it is what it is. We'll see where advanced content goes. I just really hope that they don't push their limits with it because if they do, then you know, they're practically just killing content, you know, in my opinion. Of course, you can still do all the advanced content part. I'm sure everybody's been farming for hours or for days or whatever. Do whatever you gotta do as long as you're having fun and you're not overexhausting yourself. I don't care what you do, but at the end of the day, I will be playing Baldur's Gate 3. I will see you guys later. Peace out, and until then, see you later. Peace out.